The Toronto Raptors started the NBA season with aspirations of making the playoffs, but based on their current standings, this season has been nothing short of a disaster. So, what are the key changes the Raptors need to make in the offseason? We're going to break it down for you in today's video. Let's get into it. If you don't already know, this is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis. So drop a like if you enjoy this one along the way and subscribe to the channel. Keep up to date with all of our videos and our streams, and when the channel hits 17,000 subs, and we're very close to that milestone, we're giving away 2 Raptors jerseys into the community. You can help us get there. But we're going to go through the 3 biggest changes the Raptors need to make in the offseason. Rather, the 3 key things that very much need to be addressed in the offseason. I would say that these are the 3 most important factors that Masai Ujiri's front office needs to address here after a disaster season. Look, you can talk all about the roster construction being poor, and of course, the Raptors are in a tank mode at this point, and these losses, I mean, you can understand why these losses are currently happening for the team, but how did it get to this situation? It should not have happened to this team. This team had good players to start the season, and it really should not have fallen into obscurity as it did. No, injuries near the end of the season did not help, but it really feels as though the season was already completely gone at this point. So it's not going to be an immediate turnaround, but we need to start putting the pieces in place to set things right for this organization and get them back on track, because they have talented players, they have ability, and they absolutely did not showcase it enough this season. So let's get started with the first major change that needs to happen in the offseason, and this one is all about coaching. Now, it's no secret, if you've been watching this channel, you've been following my videos, watching streams, you know that I am not the biggest fan of Darko Rajakovic, the current Toronto Raptors head coach, and I'm not here calling for his replacement. I think he's going to be the coach next season. I very much believe he's going to be the coach next season, and I very much believe that he is going to be the coach at the end of the next season. He's going to have at least another full year, probably even more than that comfortably, to try and set things right with this team. But obviously, the coaching hasn't been tremendous this season. We can talk once again about the roster construction not being where it needed to be at the start of the season. We can talk about the injuries near the end of the season, of course. But even with the start of the season, this was a good team. Schroeder, Barnes, Pascal, Trent, Pirtle, OG Anunoby, like 6 high-quality NBA players. There are a lot of front offices in the NBA that would do a lot to get a crop of players like that. Did they complement each other the best? Perhaps not, but they were better than what they showcased earlier on in the season. And one of the biggest reasons why the Raptors have continued to struggle all throughout the season is coming down to defense. Like, you look at those 5, 6 guys that I listed there. Like, OG Anunoby is one of the best defenders in the NBA. Jakob Poeltl is a terrific rim protector. Barnes has emerged as a much better defender this season, a well above average defender. Siakam is comfortably an above average defender. Schroeder, at the very least, was an average defender. Trent, not the best defender, but with that starting 5 the Raptors had in place, they should have accidentally been a top 15, top 10 defense in the NBA, and that's being generous. They should have comfortably been a top 10 defense in the NBA, but this team just continuously struggled to keep the ball out of the basket, and that has maintained all throughout the season, even with these personnel changes. And yes, you can talk about the personnel changes, and overall the team right now doesn't really have many great defenders. That's probably something we need to address. Maybe you stick around and we get to that point, but coaching has been a key reason why the defense has struggled so tremendously. Like, we've seen some strides taken offensively, and we've seen the vision start to be employed a little bit with the coaching staff and Darko Rajakovic, but flat out, the defense has just not been good enough and will not be good enough if it sustains in any way whatsoever like this. The recent loss to the New York Knicks, that's the second time this season the Toronto Raptors have set a franchise record for their largest home loss in franchise history. Like, they did it against the Pelicans at the start of this losing streak that they're on, and they did it against the Knicks here. Like, twice in the space of a month, they've had the worst home loss in franchise history. Like, the Knicks game, you can talk about the personnel available. The Pelicans game, you can't, because the Raptors had pretty much the full crop of players at their disposal to use in that game. But the key thing here is it's not about the personnel issues. Like, I can forgive a missed rotation. I can forgive somebody getting beat one-on-one. I can forgive these things. These are mistakes that these lesser sort of players, with all due respect to the guys currently playing, these are mistakes I can expect from this sort of team. But what I cannot forgive is when the schemes are wrong. And so often this season that has been the case. We can look at that recent game against the New York Knicks. Deuce McBride is shooting above 40% from 3 on the season. How did he get 8 3-pointers up in the first quarter of that game? at least 6, probably 7 of them were wide open threes at that. He hit a 3 on the first play of the game. And for the next 12 minutes, the entire first quarter, never did it clue into the Raptors that you shouldn't double off that guy. And it's not like this is a one-off situation. We had a game against the Phoenix Suns where the Raptors let Grayson Allen stay wide open on the three-point line time after time after time, even though he kept on hitting shot after shot. There was a conscious decision from the coaching staff to double off of Grayson Allen, one of the premier three-point shooters in the NBA. There was a conscious decision from the coaching staff to double off Deuce McBride. Like, these are not individual mistakes on court. This is just an inability and an incompetence from the coaching staff to prepare defensively. So whether it's Pat Delaney, whether it's Darko, I don't know who's responsible for this, what the front office needs to do in the offseason, find a coach, find somebody for the staff that is going to set the defense on the right course. You want Darko to handle the offense, then so be it. Get somebody on the staff who can handle a defense in the NBA, because clearly we've had a multitude of games that have showcased that this team is not equipped, and it's a failure on the coaching staff to equip these players. I get the roster isn't the best, and it hasn't been the best all throughout the season, but the coaching staff has regularly not put the players available in their best position to succeed. That cannot happen next season. So I'm not calling for Darko's head, not at all, but I'm saying defense has got to be fixed. Find somebody for the coaching staff that is going to help rectify this situation. So that brings us into our second thing that needs to change for this team. And yeah, we've talked about the defense at the start of the season and the players available to make it a good defense. It just wasn't happening. Well, the current team, yeah, there's a complete and utter lack of overall people who can play defense. You've got your rim protector in Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl maybe is an area that needs to be addressed in the offseason. Do you want to find somebody that's a bit younger? Do you want to find somebody maybe fits a little bit better with a team? I don't think this categorically fits into one of the 3 biggest things that needs to change in the offseason. So for me, I'm okay with keeping Jakob Poeltl, especially if the team wants to start winning more games next season. He's a very good player after all, and we've seen how important he is every time he gets injured for this team. But one area that does need to be addressed, look, coaching staff isn't putting the defense in the best position to succeed, but it wouldn't hurt to have a defensive body. And one thing that this team desperately needs, some sort of replacement for OG Anunoby. Now, you're not going to come close to that sort of level of player. You're not going to come close to replacing OG. That's 100% certain. We know how good OG is. But you need to find a big wing and a big body that just has that ability to play defense on a multitude of positions. Now, that's easier said than done. There are not many of those in the NBA. But the Raptors are just significantly lacking in size and significantly lacking in defense right now. This is a problem that, was known. The team is tanking. They made trades to lessen themselves, to acquire players that are younger for the future, but you need to start filling in the cracks of this roster. And one of the major cracks in the foundation right now is just having that big wing sort of body to fill in that defensive responsibility. Now, maybe that player is actually Ochai Agbaji. There's a potential that is the case. He's showcased some decent levels defensively, but I'm personally not completely convinced that he's going to be able to do the job that I'm asking for here, defending a few positions at a time and kind of looking through the free agent landscape. It's not really anybody that fits that bill. So there are some ways you can address this. Maybe you find somebody who hits the free agent market, though I haven't really seen a name that I'm particularly fond with in that space. Maybe you go through the trade. Maybe you orchestrate a trade, or maybe you go through the NBA draft. The Raptors are in a position right now where they have 2 pretty good picks and might have a really good pick to supplement that if things go well for them in the NBA draft lottery. It might be a top of the line pick, a top 6 pick, a middle of the first round pick. It could even slip into a late lottery pick, and a very early second round pick. The Raptors in these positions, it would be great either here or with a trade or something to find a big body wing that's just going to take on the best player on the other team. Just take on the defensive responsibility on a night-to-night basis, because we're playing games. There's so many games where I see a shifty guard and I think there's literally nobody on the team who can defend this guy. An athletic wing, and I'm looking, there's nobody on the team who can do a job here. Like, there was a game against the Cavaliers a couple months ago where Donovan Mitchell's the key defensive assignment for Donovan Mitchell was RJ Barrett. And with all due respect to RJ Barrett, he's not a great defender, but that's all we had to throw at him in that situation. We need to supplement. Look, we want to improve the defense, and I think the scheme is the most important thing. However, bringing in a big body wing who can do some damage defensively is another key asset for this team to add in the offseason. Easier said than done, but something needs to be done in the position, so the work's got to be put in. The final key area that needs to be addressed, this is a little bit similar to the roster moves, but it also is just a confirmation on the current situation for this roster in the point guard position. Immanuel Quickley has been spending some time away from the team for personal reasons. There's some serious personal reasons he's been away, so that's completely fine. When Immanuel Quickley was playing, there were some amazing shades of brilliance, but there was also maybe some signs of weaknesses for him to be the primary ball handler in the point guard position. I spoke about on this channel how he's making the leaps and the jumps as a point guard playmaker, kind of learning this position after playing as a two guard so frequently with the New York Knicks next to Jalen Brunson for a number of seasons. Now he's having to take on a completely different responsibility as the main ball handler for this team, the main playmaker for this team, and maybe there's going to be a bit of an adjustment phase, but there certainly is reason for some people to have some skepticism about Immanuel Quickley being that lead point guard, being that true one for the team for the long-term future. So whether you want to make Immanuel Quickley your point guard, my stance right now is Immanuel Quickley's your point guard, especially with a guy like Grady Dick alongside as the two guard. You get Barrett at the 3, Barnes at the 4. Kind of just makes sense right now for Immanuel Quickley to be your main point guard. That's the way I'd go. If there's a decision not to go in that direction, you need to find somebody who's going to be that lead point guard. If Immanuel Quickley is going to be your point guard, you need to find still some point guards to supplement this team. Like, how many seasons in a row does this team just not have point guard depth? It's unbelievable. Like, we had Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. No backups for them because they both started, but at least you had 2 point guards. When Lowry left, we had VanVleet, and then they would use Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton, 2 players clearly incapable of being the lead backup guard for this team. Say what you want about Banton's run near the end of the season here. Not sure that will sustain. In his time in Toronto, he was not this type of player. You could not trust him on a day-to-day basis. Fred VanVleet, time after time after time, season after season, like 2 seasons, without a true backup point guard. And the Raptors entered this season as well. Fred VanVleet leaving the team, replacing him with Dennis Schroeder. And there still wasn't a proper backup point guard for this team. Like, Malachi Flynn is out of rotation on one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Detroit Pistons. He was getting main backup point guard minutes at the start of this season for the Raptors. I just cannot handle another season where there's such glaring holes, and these glaring holes have been apparent year after year after year. Like, how has it been 3 seasons and this team still does not have point guard depth? When Immanuel Quickley stopped playing, Bruce Brown was freaking starting at point guard. Javon Freeman-Liberty, like with all due respect to him, coming out of the G League, he's on a 2-way contract. He's the current starting point guard for the Raptors. I get the team is tanking, but like, if Immanuel Quickley's hurt, like, you can't just have no point guards. Like the immediate backup is Scotty Barnes. Like, that's fine, he can do a job there, but there was just a complete and utter lack of point guard depth overall in this team, and I cannot go through this for another season. It needs to be addressed. Thankfully, look, you can do some damage in the free agent market. There's going to be some cap space. Look, say what you want about Dennis Schroeder. For a mid-level exception, he was a great pickup in free agency. Was it the Fred VanVleet replacement we needed? No, but for that amount of money, a great pickup. Not to mention the possible plethora of draft picks the Raptors are going to have available. Hey, a top 6 pick. Do I smell Rob Dellingham ending up on the Toronto Raptors? There's a possibility that's the case. There's every opportunity to address the need for point guard depth, especially if Immanuel Quickley is showing a little bit of faults in the playmaking spot. Make it a little bit easier for him. Find that lead playmaking point guard. Maybe have some 2-guard lineups where Quickley can play as a 2. Ease that ball handling load a little bit. These are some decisions that need to be made by the Raptors. So those are the 3 key things that need to change in the coaching department. Find somebody who's going to figure out this defense. In the personnel department, get a big wing defender that's going to help with that defense 100%, help with those schemes. But finally, address the point guard depth. It's been 3-4 years. It's time to figure this shit out. What do you guys make of these 3 things? Or do you think anything is bigger? Is there anything that I missed? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That's all for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content. And because we're very close to 17,000 subs, and I'll see you again next time for another video.